Hello, friends. Welcome in. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day. Happy to have you with us on this Thursday. It is September 11th, 2025. It's our episode 882 of our gatherings on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we are out and about today. We're everywhere that you can absorb news, music, information, whatever. We're here for you. iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, podcast feature if you so desire, and of course Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. Listen on any of those platforms or the good old radio dial at 99.7 FM, and we obviously appreciate all of you being here and all of you listening. Let me give you a little bit of the lay of the land. You're going to hear some activity in the background. If you're watching, are we up? Are we up? Are we good? We're getting there? Okay, so we're up. So if you're watching on YouTube TV, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, you'll see in the background we've got the beautiful stage set up here at City Winery for the Charlie Daniels Patriot Awards dinner. It is a very special occasion and one that I've been honored to be a part of. I guess this is my now fourth year being a part of this event, and it's an honor every year to get to be in a room with so many wonderful patriots, veterans, those that served, and to honor those that serve, are serving, have served, and those who cannot be here because they sacrificed all. And we're going to talk about all of those things as the show progresses today. Obviously, honoring and celebrating our veterans is particularly poignant today, considering that today is September 11th. And this day has two specific, and maybe more if I thought about it long enough, but two specific ways to remember today. The primary way being obviously 9/11 of 2001. Been 24 years. Somewhere between September 11th of 2001 and now, I became an old man, and that's how time goes, right? Time is undefeated. But for those of us of a certain age, we certainly remember that day. I was speaking on air earlier today with a good friend of mine, Doug Amos, who is a sportscaster down in Montgomery, Alabama. I was in Montgomery, Alabama, broadcasting on WACV on September 11th, 2001. I did an afternoon show, but I also, and Jackson, you should listen up because you don't believe I paid my dues, but I did. I got up in the morning. This is what I did at WACV on September 11th and for every day that I was working there, right? So I would get up in the morning at 5 a.m. I would go to work. I did a news hour from 6 until 7. I screened telephones and did the news between 7 and 11 a.m. That was 7 to 9 was a sports show, and 9 to 11 was a political show, the Don Markwell show. And then I got a lunch break, and then I would come back and do my radio show from 4 until 6 in the afternoon. So I did a little bit of a split shift. Well, obviously, we never went off air on that day because I was in the newsroom screening calls for the sports show and gathering news together to do a bottom of the hour news cast when we recognized, and it was funny, we were talking today because every year Doug Amos and I get together either on his show or my show, and we kind of reminisce because most of us who were around during that time, we remember exactly where we were, we remember exactly what we were doing, we remember exactly who we were doing it with, and you need to hold on to those memories, right? We need to remember the realities of that day in order to never repeat that day. That said, Doug and I were watching, I had a small box television. Flat screen TVs didn't exist at that time. Social media wasn't a thing on 9/11 of 2001, right? Twitter didn't exist. Facebook, I don't think Facebook existed in 2001. If it did, it was way in its infancy, but I don't even think it existed. Maybe MySpace or something like that. But bottom line was this. There were no social media platforms to get information out like that, and you relied on radio communication, and you relied on television news. And it was a television broadcast in a big box television that was in the newsroom, and there was another larger box television in the studio. And we saw this report that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. And like many of you, like so many Americans, like millions of Americans who saw this initial thing, you're like, oh, my goodness, a small plane. What happened? Did the pilot have some sort of medical emergency? My goodness gracious, that looks awful. That's going to be horrible. Hopefully everyone's okay. And I remember this because Doug said, when we were talking on air, he said, my goodness gracious, some idiot, some knucklehead flew into the tower. And I said, hold on a second. It looks like CBS is about to replay it. Because I said, CBS is replaying it. I saw a plane coming in, and then the realization hit, wait a minute. One tower's already on fire, and there's another plane. This is a new plane. And it was at that second, that moment, a slow realization washes over you of the most horrific fashion that we are being attacked. We're under attack. And from there, the rest of the day was an absolute blur on air from 7 a.m. that morning to 8 p.m. that night. I recall that there were concerns about, obviously, when Shanksville happened, that was heading toward the White House. We were concerned about Washington, D.C. The Pentagon attack happened. We were concerned about Sears Tower. I remember distinctly on September 11, 2001, getting an AP report, and we still had the old dot matrix printer back then where the reports you could print, they would print out, and then you rip them off. That's where rip and read, the term rip and read came from. And I remember the dot matrix printer printing out that it is believed a plane was heading toward the Willis Tower or the Sears Tower in Chicago, Illinois. And being fearful that a plane was in the air heading toward Chicago and one of the major buildings there. But we're going to remember today. Obviously, we'll take your telephone calls all afternoon long, not just about that, but we're also remembering Charlie Kirk on the day after the horrific news. And I think, frankly, this will be a seminal moment in American history as well, because I think it presents a sea change in terms of attitude of what we will and will not accept in public discourse. And I am not shying away from what I said yesterday. As a matter of fact, I'm going to double down on it. I don't see the types of celebrations from the political right when someone on the political left dies. I don't see the types of celebrations that I'm seeing from the political left on social media yesterday and today. These two things are not equal. And so to suggest this nonsense, everyone needs to cool off. Everyone needs to calm down. Everyone needs to watch what they say. I would suggest to you the political left are the people that need to do all of those things. That I believe that most of us on the right or on as libertarians or whatever, that we are very grounded and centered as to what is appropriate political discourse and what is inappropriate political discourse. And I'm not going to back down from that position because the evidence proves me right. And I have a mountain of it that I can present to you today that demonstrate that what I'm saying to you is right. Examples right here in the state of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State University, the assistant dean was fired last night because she was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. There's a professor at East Tennessee State University that is on administrative leave because she couldn't help herself. Or he, I don't know which. They couldn't help themselves, and they made inappropriate comments. I've got another example from Cumberland. What is up with these college professors, these holier-than-thou, I'm smarter than you college professors that cannot help themselves but to get on social media and demonstrate what absolute monstrous ghouls they are? You wish death on someone who has a different political position than you. And if you are under the misguided position that Charlie Kirk was a Nazi or wished death on other people, you are wrong. And you have been getting your information from poor sources. And you ought to get better information before you make an ass of yourself. All right. So before I get too much on get my rant pants on, I want to back off for a minute. So we're out at the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project Patriot Awards dinner. Just to kind of signpost for you a little bit, let you know where we're going and how we're getting there. We will be live until 6 o'clock tonight, and we are hopeful that we'll get an opportunity. Sadly, some of the security apparatus that has had to change over the last 24 hours has necessitated some schedule changes amongst the people that we were planning on interviewing. And look, we're all a family, and so I need to pull back some of that. That is not on our end. We're all good on our end from Super Talk's end. And I want to actually say something. I want to thank publicly the people that we work for. Obviously Charlie Kirk was a huge name. Matt Murphy's not a huge name. I'm a very, very small fish. Chris Hand is a slightly bigger fish. Dan Mandis, slightly bigger fish. Chad Benson, slightly bigger fish. I'm not a big fish at all. But we are in the same pond. right, as the huge fish that was Charlie Kirk, if you get my analogy, right? We swim in these same waters. We lay ourselves out there. I speak to people all the time on phone, via email, via text message, and in person that don't like me very much, right? So with that in mind, we are sensitive to the radicalization of certain people, especially online, that feel that they are somehow empowered to commit these heinous, evil, violent acts. And with that in mind, the team at Cumulus got engaged yesterday, and I without going into too much detail, I just want to thank the people, our bosses locally and nationally, that are like, listen, we've got your back. We believe in what you do. We will never cower. We will never bow down. We will never stop advancing forward and doing what we're doing because of fear. And it's the last damn thing that I'm going to do. But we were asked yesterday, I was asked directly by two different people that work in management at our company locally, do you want to do the event? Do you want to pull the plug? And I said, absolutely not. I'm there. And I'm like, my attitude, and not that it ever got to this, is, look, y'all have got decisions that y'all got to make, but I'm going to be at the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Patriot Awards dinner tomorrow night, starting at 3 o'clock. I don't know where y'all are, but everybody was on the same page. But obviously, from our standpoint and from the standpoint of some of the people that are going to be here tonight, security changes. You've just got to make sure that you're dotting your I's and you're crossing your T's, and everything that you need to be happening appropriately is happening. So that changes our schedule a little bit. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to have John Tigan on, also known as Tig, who is an absolute Benghazi hero. I'm hopeful that we will have Mark Geist on, a.k.a. Oz. He was also a part of the tactical team, security team there at the Annex on that fateful day, September 11th, 2012, into September 12th, 2012. We don't know exactly when those guys are going to get in. So we're a little fluid on that. I believe we've got Representative Jeremy Faison on at 3:35 today, and Jackson, I'll get you and I'll get Bell that contact info, because he's going to talk about some of the professors here in the state of Tennessee that are getting the boot, rightly so, over their comments regarding the death of Charlie Kirk, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I know that. And thirdly, also up in the air, I've been in contact with Representative Andy Ogles, who is in the air right now, literally. He is flying back to Nashville. Andy said that he would be, he's going to be landing, sometime right before 4 o'clock. And if possible, he's going to stop by our facility here at the City Winery. He's got an event later on tonight, but he said he lands just before 4. If you've not heard, Andy was one of the individuals, or I think the individual, that has nominated Charlie Kirk posthumously to receive the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the highest award that can be given to a civilian by Congress. Obviously, the President of the United States announced that Charlie Kirk would posthumously be given the Congressional Medal of Freedom, which is a presidential award. Congress offers the Congressional Gold Medal, and already Representative Andy Ogles has introduced that resolution to give that medal to Charlie Kirk posthumously. So hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that today. Plus, it's my understanding that Andy, he and I were going back and forth discussing the possibility of holding some sort of event in Nashville. He called it the Never Back Down Rally. I like the name. I like the idea. We have been talking about that, an effort to, bring some the country music folks that we have in Nashville, Tennessee, and some other folks, maybe members of Congress, together. And I don't want to say too much. I don't want to get ahead of my skis. I don't want to, get ahead of the parade here. But Andy's working on that, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him. So he's either going to stop by or he's going to be on phone a little bit later on. All that to say that the show here, and if you're coming tonight, come and say hello to me and let's shake hands or hug necks or whatnot. But the show tonight starts, doors open I think at 5 or 5:30. 5:30, I think. But the show starts at 6. Yes, it does. I'm going to, Kirby. Well, Mr. Corley. What does Mr. Corley know? He's just the father. One way or the other, the doors in the show, I was told the show starts at 6, but one way or the other, we are not going to be live after 6 o'clock. But what we're going to do is we're going to re-rack, as we say in the business, offer you, for those who missed it, the 3 o'clock hour from yesterday. Hard listen? Yes. It was hard to do. It was hard to talk about. But we didn't know a lot that we know today, but the immediacy of the moment and the aftermath of the moment, I think it bears hearing again. And frankly, we are going to need to listen to and talk about very hard subjects today and tomorrow and for the foreseeable future in this country. If this is where we at, if you have a subgroup of people, a subgroup of a political subgroup that seems willing, ready, and able through mental illness or whatever to commit acts of political violence against their perceived enemies who seem to only be there to speak and to offer opinion, then we've got some hard discussions to have about all of this. Obviously, all afternoon long, we will be taking your telephone calls at 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. Jackson's on site with us, as is Kirby, as is CJ. Hey, CJ. Bell K is back at home base, and I think I just re-signed up for the StreamYard, Bell, so I ought to be able to see you there and see the folks on the phones there. So we'll take your calls throughout the course of the afternoon. We got a lot to say about 9/11. We have a lot to say about Charlie Kirk, and everything is moving at such a rapid pace. We need to kind of reset that because there was a press conference scheduled earlier today in Utah that got pushed back. Is Ken Weaver back there at home base, Bell?
How about you?
Hey, Ken. You doing all right?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a 24 hours, hasn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it has.
And, it's weird because already this day is a somber day as we remember 9/11,
well,
obviously.
And that's the thing. I almost completely forgot about that last night.
I know, man. I know. I was reminded when I was talking to Chris Hand. He and I talked a little bit after I got off air. And I'm like, my goodness gracious, tomorrow's 9/11. You just the immediacy of the moment and the breaking news nature of the moment. But if you have anything, like I said yesterday, Ken, obviously I can't see you today, but if you have anything, just jump in here and let me know when we need to know the news. And if you hear anything on that press conference, let me know, Ken, if you
Will
don't mind.
do, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. 25 after the hour, just getting underway at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, live from City Winery, The Matt Murphy Show. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy live from the City Winery. The Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project Patriot Awards dinner is tonight, honoring, a couple of honorees. One, Bernie Carrick, needs of our veterans returning home. Obviously, we lost Bernie Carrick. He's the former New York City Police Commissioner. He was Police Commissioner on 9/11, 2001, and he's going to be honored tonight. Also, those individuals at Benghazi that were just treated so poorly in the midst of an attack where they were attempting desperately to get to Ambassador Christopher Stevens and were not allowed to do so. We're going to talk to those guys as well. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. We're going to give you an opportunity to speak right after Jeremy Faison. And Jeremy Faison is coming up in just a moment, right after the news that's happening now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Rodney writes in, before we get to the phones and our Murphy Show hotline with Representative Jeremy Faison, Rodney writes in and says, hey, Matt, I just heard your weather report. No rain in the forecast. You might want to look outside and tell me that that's not rain. I just got soaked. Within 3 minutes, you need to check your weather guy and tell him, look, don't talk to me. It's not Matt's weather report. No, that's somebody else's weather report. You know who I blame? I blame, let's see, do I blame Ken Weaver or do I blame Jackson?
My fault.
Bell. Bell took responsibilities. Bell's K's fault on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks for taking that for us, Bell. Bell's going to take the shot there from you, Rodney. It's Bell's weather report, and it's Bell's fault that it's raining on you.
Yeah, we got some heavy rain that has popped up right now.
Yeah, we got it over here.
And it wasn't expected.
Yeah, I know. It's odd. I mean, I get this. My grandma used to call this heat rain, Ken.
Oh, heat rain.
That's what she would call it. If it was real hot and steamy and just one of those thunder boomers pops up as a result, she would call it heat rain. So I guess that's what we're dealing with. I was pulling up the we got one right on top of Nashville.
By golly.
By golly. If you're in downtown Nashville, you're probably getting rained on just a little bit, or you're about to be.
All the way down there to Berry Hill.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at that right. Yeah, Berry Hill,
Nolensville. Woo.
almost to the zoo down there.
I don't think they had a chance to pre-treat the roads.
Hope Woodbine. Hey, if you're in Woodbine, find your safe place. You're getting rained on. Y'all know how it goes. All right, let's go to the phones and talk to our good friend, Representative Jeremy Faison, who joins us on the show to sadly talk about several incidences of individuals not being able to comport themselves in a model of civilized society. Representative Faison, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Matt. I am well. Thank you for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing great, my friend, and I appreciate you so much being on top of this situation very, very quickly. It's sad that we have to talk about this, but some folks don't know how to act in civilized society, it seems. It would seem to me that an assassination, an act of political violence along these lines would kind of mandate for most of us, and I think it does for most of us, that this is beyond the pale, and all this deserves is prayers for the family, and let's figure out how we can better protect our citizenry. But sadly, the assistant dean at MTSU didn't feel that way. Tell the folks a little bit about this and what has happened at Middle Tennessee State University.
So, Matt, what I want you and your listener, and obviously you know this because you know me and you know many of us in the legislature, the majority of us in the legislature will literally fight for you to have the right to cuss us, to say whatever your grievances are against the legislature. We get that. It's part of the territory. And for the most part, I am 100% for the First Amendment. What I am not for, and nobody in our legislature, except maybe the Democrats or the left, is for you celebrating the assassination of a political opponent. That you've gone past your First Amendment right, especially if you are in authority over a young mind, over our college students, and you're going to have the audacity to celebrate or say he had it coming or whatever you want to do to enter into your little demonic celebration. That's a problem that the taxpayers of Tennessee should not have to pay for you to be able to espouse that kind of hate. So we immediately, Speaker Saxon, Leader Lamberth, myself, we immediately took action, made appropriate phone calls, and said, listen, Sidney, this needs to be looked at. And thankfully, Sidney is a good guy, he's a good leader, and he took the appropriate steps. Found out the same thing happened at ETSU. I have two children there. My son called me today and said, Dad, you will not believe what a professor has said at ETSU. Looked it up, sent it to Dr. Nolan. Now, here's the crazy thing, Matt. This guy is celebrating the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, this professor, but he's tenured. It's way past time that the taxpayers of Tennessee need to quit paying for the automatic and determined job for however long they want it for a professor who behaves like that. So you'll see something happen with that this year as well.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, what does that mean, for the layman out there when you hear, oh, this professor was tenured? Does that mean that it's much more difficult to remove this person or fire them?
Absolutely. So when I talked to Dr. Nolan today, he said, Jeremy, we have immediately placed him on administrative leave. He has been removed from the campus. He said our attorneys are looking at this to make sure that we have calls that we can let him go. But the policies and the way contracts are written up behind tenure, a professor really has to be derelict and almost criminal before they can let him go. So it's got to go up for a full review. He's got to have a hearing, all this stuff. Why do you have to have a hearing? If your social media has entered into the celebration of the murder of an innocent human, you don't need to have a hearing. We see it right there, black and white, what you said. So we need to make sure if you are a professor or a dean and you have influence over children and the people of Tennessee are paying for your job, you ought to lose your job really quick if you're that crazy to say something foolish like what these professors and deans have said.
Well, and for me, and I understand that in these two circumstances, it involves taxpayer money, and so I'm glad that people like you, Jeremy Faison, and leadership in the House, and folks like Cameron Sexton, William Lamberth are on top of this because it involves our money. But, some are wondering, well, hey, wait a minute, I thought we had freedom of – look, you have freedom of speech as long as you're not directly threatening someone or violating someone's rights. At the same time, you don't have freedom from consequences, no matter your employer.
Correct.
And in this case, the people of the state of Tennessee are the employers of these individuals at these universities. Am I right, Jeremy?
100%. And we all understand that universities are a liberal bastion. We get it. Wish it wasn't that way, but it is that way. But at least at a bare minimum, respect life in such a way that you don't enter into a celebration of somebody else's murder. And I think that's what the taxpayers of Tennessee expect of our professors.
So last night, I know that you were on social media discussing this. I was as well. But just to make sure that folks know, the MTSU president, Sidney McPhee, wrote this. An MTSU employee today offered inappropriate and callous comments on social media concerning the horrific and tragic murder of Charlie Kirk. The comments by this employee, who worked in a position of trust directly with students, were inconsistent with our values and have undermined the university's credibility and reputation with our students, faculty, staff, and community at large. This employee has been fired effective immediately. We extend our deepest sympathies to the Kirk family. Good for McPhee. Good for you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
What do you – what I don't understand, I understand that they're liberal people. I understand that they have a perception perhaps that their social media platforms are somehow separate and distinct from their roles, in this case at MTSU. But you and I well know that just about any contract that you enter into at any organization would dictate that if you do something to harm the reputation of said organization, that punishment could come your way. And frankly, we're a right-to-work state anyway. That said, I just don't understand the mentality of people that would take to social media and say such awful things and have this belief that there is not going to be a consequence on the other side of it.
Yeah, can we just acknowledge the fact that Charlie Kirk is one of the men who went in and actually handed a microphone to these people?
Right.
The godless left that killed him, he's one of the only people who went into the belly of the beast and say, hey, I'll give you an audience. You got thousands of people. Take your best shot with whatever words or policies or thoughts you have, and let's debate it. What a beautiful thing he did. And they could not beat him in debate, so they killed him. And then these bastard professors can't stand that fact, and they're going to celebrate the death of a man who literally gave a microphone to their people. My gosh, how callous and evil can you be to celebrate the death of this guy who gave a microphone to your little students and your disciples? Shame on you.
And we sadly have yet another one. We have this incident involving the assistant dean at MTSU, then the professor at Eastern Tennessee State University, and now I'm seeing that apparently there's a professor of English at Cumberland University by the name of Michael Rex who is saying much the same. And so this is yet another instance of this type of thing happening, right there in Lebanon. And I would expect the same result from this third situation where, you can think however you want to think, and in a lot of ways you can say whatever you want to say, but you don't have to work here.
Matt, I'm going to just tell your listeners the bio on Professor Andrew Herman at ETSU. This is what his bio says. Geek, writer, research. This is what freaked me out. Enemy within. The leftist professor your pastor warned you about. He called himself the enemy within and the leftist professor your pastor warned you about. And that's what our taxpayer money is paying for? Where is the civil discourse in that? Where is the honest and open debate in a professor who has charge over young minds that comes at that like that? How about the students like my son who's an open Christian? How does he feel taking that guy's class? Is there any freedom for somebody like my son to go in and take a class there as him as the professor? We can do better. We can do better.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. It's my understanding, and I've just seen, somebody just sent me, this last professor that I mentioned, this Michael Rex or Mick Rex, who posted, and I'm not going to read what he posted because it's awful, regarding the death of Charlie Kirk. But just today, he has now apologized, saying no one deserves to be murdered. yesterday. I made a comment about it. I didn't think about the ramifications of my words, nor do I intend to cause anyone any pain. I feel like it's too little too late. Now the guy's trying to save his job. You've already told us who you are, and I don't think we need you as a leader of young minds at a university. What do you say, Jeremy?
Yeah, you're all over the truth. And Matt, first, let's just say thank you for speaking truth and being on this. As soon as I tweeted about that last night, you were on it. You're paying attention. You know what's sad to me is that makes you a target to the left because you're willing to boldly proclaim and speak truth, and they know the lies can't overdo a truth, and you're speaking truth, and you're a target. Anybody who wants to speak truth is a target to these leftists. Can we just say something? Have we noticed that nobody burnt down any cities last night?
That's right.
Nobody has looted. Nobody destroyed any businesses. Nobody went to a fire department or a police department and set it on fire. Nobody acted like a complete damn fool last night. Imagine if it was somebody else on the Democrat side who got shot by a conservative activist. They would have burnt the country down last night. That should tell you who we're dealing with right there. And if that's your party that wants to go and burn your own place down after something happens that you don't like, that ought to tell you you're in the wrong party.
Well spoken. There's Representative Jeremy Faison. Thank you for coming on with us on short notice and speaking your mind on this issue. We appreciate you very much, Jeremy, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Yes, sir. Blessings.
All right. Take care. Here's the deal. I want to make real clear that y'all hear this before we go to break, and I know we got to get to break. I am in the free speech business. I believe in the ability for people to speak their mind. Freedom of speech does not come without consequence. If I say something that is out of bounds for this radio company, I will be fired. And if someone who works for a university or works for a business says something publicly that is out of bounds, it is perfectly permissible for those businesses or those universities to fire them too. You get to live and you get to say what you want to say. Nobody's locking you in jail. But the bottom line is there are consequences for speech above and beyond what the government cannot do. It's 54 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver, that's happening in just moments from now as we are live from the City Winery. The Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project Patriot Awards Dinner is tonight. They're getting set up for that dinner right now. You might hear some music from time to time in the background as they're getting ready to celebrate our Patriots, to remember those lost, and to figure out where we're going moving forward. We're doing a lot of things, juggling a lot of balls, not the least of which is remembering 9/11/2001. We'll continue to do that. Take your telephone calls in the second hour. We've been very, very busy in the first hour, so we're going to try to focus on some of your telephone calls in hour number 2. Don't forget, we got 3 hours today, and then the final hour of the show from 6 to 7, as we're going to be a part of the Patriot Awards Dinner, will be a replay of our first hour from yesterday. Just want to remind you of all of that. We'll get to your texts and your calls coming up next, and tell you where we are regarding this press conference that is expected out of Utah at some point this afternoon. We'll give you the latest developments on all of that right after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.